If you are a coon, super coon, Negro in training, jump off. If you're one of those mixed race Africans who don't want to be African, you don't know what you are, you belong to all groups, jump your ass up off.
Umar Johnson is the last person I would think of when posting about Charlie Kirk like this, because this was definitely quite shocking. And it was because of this post he got a lot of backlash. So much so that he had to make a second post earlier today, and he says that he stands by his words.
Yeah, and I don't know who told Dr. Umar that he was a spokesperson of all black people, but we need to stop that right now.
Y'all, Dr. Umar Johnson is getting aired out by his own followers over his comments on Charlie Kirk's assassination. And the reactions are all over the place. See, instead of sticking to his usual lane, Umar called out black people and said he's ashamed of his own community for not mourning Charlie Kirk. I know you lying. And that's when things blew up. Because let's be honest, Charlie Kirk wasn't exactly known as a friend to the black community. He spent years criticizing black activists, mocking victims of police brutality like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and pushing the kind of politics that directly clash with everything Dr. Umar preaches about.
You know, thought crime, like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm gonna be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up new age term that it does a lot of damage, but
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal.
So for Umar to suddenly position himself as the moral referee and demand compassion for a man who built a career tearing down black people, yeah, Umar's followers are not having it. People are now sharing Umar's old speeches where he slammed Trump, warned black people against trusting white conservatives, mocked right-wing talking points, and basically said the opposite of what he's saying now.
Yeah. Look at all the black people say they want to vote for Donald Trump when he was found liable in a court of law to have that woman. So if you are against of women, abuse of women, you want Diddy to burn, but you're going to vote Donald Trump into office. Look at the contradiction.
But here's the part that's really strange. The people defending Umar aren't his base. They're not the folks who usually ride for him. Instead, they are conservative commentators, podcasters, and even some of Charlie Kirk's old allies. People who just a week ago were mocking Umar themselves are suddenly praising him as honorable and consistent. So the big question is, how did we get here?
Top 5 coons of all time.
Woo! All right, so Dr. Umar's reaction came pretty quickly after the news broke about Charlie Kirk, but it wasn't what his followers expected. Umar decided to call out black people for supposedly making fun of and celebrating Kirk's passing, and he even said he's ashamed of his community. He shared this statement on his IG saying, "While I did not agree with Mr. Kirk's rhetoric and considered him to be an anti-black bigot, I will never rejoice at the loss of life of anyone who hasn't directly participated in the unaliving of a member of the black African race. I am ashamed to see members of my community celebrating this situation. I will never ask you to mourn the loss of an enemy of our race, but to celebrate an unaliving is completely unacceptable. We know all too well that the greatest recipients of political assassinations in this country have been our own people. Stop laughing at the misfortunes of others and get prepared. Political assassinations have returned to the United States of America, courtesy of the deep state." But Umar's followers were not having it, and they went in on him in the comments. They're out here calling him a hypocrite, a coon, and accusing him of tap dancing for conservatives while cosplaying as a black liberationist. Here are just some of the comments on his post. "The coon chip has been activated in the Prince of Pan-Africanism. This is really disappointing you posted this. Don't move the goalpost. Just because he didn't physically harm or unalive anyone, it doesn't mean he hasn't been absolutely destructive and intentionally harming our community. The guy endorsed slavery, public executions, racism, and y'all want me to give him praise or grace? I'm confused. I'm unfollowing you though. Seems like you got bunny fever." Umar, the same dude who was like, "Gaza ain't our business," scolding people about how they react to this guy getting smoked. Rich. And then many people also started pulling out receipts and calling out Umar for being a grifter and chasing attention from a new audience. Someone said, "When you lost all the money, you have to start tap dancing." And then another person added, "Worry about that school you have been scamming on." Now here's where it gets really messy, because a lot of people aren't just calling Umar a hypocrite, they're saying he's been a grifter from day one. And that whole Pan-African activist activist persona? Well, it might have been just a performance designed to get clout, donations, and influence while keeping him in the spotlight. And honestly, knowing what we know about how Umar moves behind the scenes, it's hard to argue against that theory. Think about it. Umar's financial history has always been, well, sketchy to say the least. Remember that school he tried to run, the Frederick Douglass Leadership Academy? Allegations of mismanagement, unpaid staff, and parents claiming he took their money and delivered nothing.
Umar Johnson just admitted that he's losing the school this month. But wait, there's more. Umar, the first thing you said in your very repetitive rant was that you were aware that you needed to make some payments. You didn't make those payments. Then you followed that up by stating that you never received the notification stating that you needed to make payments. Then you proceeded to tell the audience, your audience, that you will be protesting, that you might be protesting, and that you could have worked out a payment plan for what you called an unjust charge, an unjust bill, if you will. And you're also stating that they're about to take the amount of money up on how much you owe. That is, if they don't straight up sell the school at the end of this month, which they are going to do. Because the reality is, Umar, regardless of how much money you've had donated to you, how much time you've had to get it together, and how many people there were constantly in your ear reminding you, you need to make the school, you need to make the school, you need to make the school. You continued to play with their emotions. And worse yet, their money. So check this out, when he loses this school and inevitably tells his entire audience that he now needs more donations so he can open up a brand new one, and he doesn't actually make the money to do so, at least we all understand why.
And that's just one out of many red flags about Umar. See, he's built his whole image as a fearless Pan-African activist, a black liberation icon, a man who's supposedly fighting the system and speaking truth to power. But when you start looking closer, a lot of people are starting to ask, what has he actually done besides talking on podcasts? He always rants about liberation, Pan-Africanism, and uplifting the black community. But there's very little evidence of his real-world action backing it up. He's not running grassroots programs with any real impact. He's not part of coalitions or movements that accomplish material results. He rarely collaborates with other respected figures or organizations. In fact, most of the Pan-Africanist and Black liberation community distance themselves from him, and that speaks volumes. Real activists build networks, work with their communities, and create measurable change. And Umar's network is, well, just him, his live streams, and his social media audience. And that looks like a persona that's built for clout, not for actual movement building. And then there's the fundraising. Umar has always been very public about asking for donations, running campaigns, promoting books, lectures, and speaking fees. So when you put it all together, it doesn't really look like actual activism, but more like nonstop hustle.
Donations. 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 Gifts. 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 More gifts. More gifts.
Oh, and remember that time he tried to charge women $500 to have lunch with him? Ew.
Program coming out for the ladies is called Lunch with the Doctor. It's called Lunch with the Doctor. You make a $500 donation to FDMG Academy, ladies. $500 donation to FDMG Academy, and you get a free lunch with Dr. Umar, restaurant of your choice in the state of Wilmington, Delaware. I said we got a new program called Lunch with Dr. Umar. Private lunch. Ladies, you got to donate $500 to the FDMG Academy, and I will take you to lunch, private lunch, any restaurant you want in the state of Delaware. It's called Lunch with the Doctor, and it costs you $500.
Yo, he really tried to convince you to pay $500 to go to a restaurant of your choosing and pay for the dinner with the money you sent. And y'all, he's still doing it. After he posted that statement criticizing black people for not mourning Charlie Kirk, Umar went back to what he does best, asking for donations. He just shared this post saying he offers $100 consultations, telephone or virtual, your choice. So yeah, this is why Umar lost any shred of credibility, if he even had any in the first place. He's constantly performing the image of a black leader. This never translates into anything that materially benefits the community he claims to defend. It's actually the opposite. It seems he spends more time taking from the community instead of giving to it. And now, after these Charlie Kirk comments, even more people are turning on Umar. And a lot of them are also pointing out that he seems controlled because he recently started toning down all that black liberation talk. Someone said he burned bridges with his own community. He has no choice but to tap dance for biscuits. And another comment pointed out that Umar is getting investigated for scamming money. So he might be trying to get closer to Trump for a pardon. And this theory makes sense because Umar himself recently admitted that his personal bank account and the account for his school have been frozen. And the first thing he did, ask his followers to give him money.
With that being said, brothers and sisters, Dr. Umar has access to no money right now because my personal account contains all of my money. I only send it to Apple Pay and PayPal as necessary. So the Prince of Pan-Africanism, for the first time in my life, is without any digital currency. So for my loyal supporters out there, if you can spare a few dollars so I can take care of Queen Mother Ifatunde and myself until my bank account is frozen or canceled so I can get my money back and open up a new account, please hit my Apple Pay or hit my PayPal.
But here's another angle to this story. People online aren't just roasting Umar for being a hypocrite, they're also comparing him to Candace Owens. And the takeaway is that Candace is at least doing something. See, Umar's whole deal right now is criticizing black people for not mourning Charlie Kirk. He's performing outrage, putting himself on a moral pedestal, but he's not investigating anything. He's not asking questions about what actually happened. He's not challenging anyone with real power. Meanwhile, Candace is doing the exact opposite. Now, don't get me wrong. There are many things about Candace that we should criticize. But when it comes to this Charlie Kirk situation, at least she's asking the questions nobody's supposed to ask. She's putting herself out there in a way that Umar isn't. And now she's calling out billionaires, donors, and people in positions of influence who allegedly orchestrated the hit on Charlie. 2 days after Charlie was assassinated, Candace posted this message on X. Charlie Kirk was fighting with some very powerful billionaires that he took money from over things he was discussing. The pressure on him was immense over the last 2 weeks. The truth will be revealed, the messages will be leaked, and the movement he built will rise up. Well, I hope the hell not. And then in a follow-up message, Candace pointed out that shortly before he was killed, Charlie turned down an official invite to our so-called greatest ally.
But it goes to the point where, if, for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government about backlash than actual Israelis do. It's
been
almost
so
as if
unfair.
you,
they were coming after you after Turning Point for, among other things, that you had Dave Smith there. Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel. You had both sides. The Israeli side was overrepresented.
Though. No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that. Like, I host a person that I moderate the debate of, mind you, right? And I give equal time to Josh Hammer, equal time to a pro-Israel advocate. And my moral character is being put into question.
So basically, Candace seems to be hinting that Charlie Kirk was silenced before he could influence the Republicans against a foreign power that you're not allowed to question. Now, as for Dr. Umar, he's not asking any of these questions. He's supposed to be a fearless black activist. But if you think about it, he never actually goes against the system in any way. So yeah, the way people are reacting to the Charlie Kirk situation says a lot. People are quick to pick sides, call hypocrisy, and point out grifts. But they're also revealing how divided everyone really is. Umar's getting roasted by his own followers. Meanwhile, the white conservatives are all of a sudden praising him. And then Candace is leaning into all the conspiracy theories and challenging some very powerful players. At the same time, the general public seems even more divided than before. People are fighting over morality, loyalty, conspiracies, and political alignment. And honestly, it doesn't look good. Well, let me know how you feel about all this. Do you see Umar as a grifter, a hypocrite, or did he actually have a point with that statement about Charlie Kirk? And what about Candace? Is she actually doing something meaningful here, or is this also performative? And how are you processing the way people are reacting to Kirk's death? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video.